Right, welcome back. So we're very excited about our new feature on Mondays now. It's called Medical Matters. Currently, between 800 to 1,000 South African children are diagnosed with cancer annually. However, it is estimated that half of the children with cancer in the country are never diagnosed. 2/3 of children with cancer never reach a specialist treatment centre for treatment in South Africa. The majority of those that present are in advanced stages of the illness. These are figures that we receive from the Cancer Association of South Africa, that's cancer. And as part of our focus on medical matters this morning, we take a closer look at childhood cancers, from the early warning signs, the access to treatment, and to the management of it as well. Well, today, Liezle Wilson is at the Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital's Paediatric Oncology Clinic in Soweto, and that, of course, is in Gauteng. Let's cross over to find out how things are there and what's being done to address these challenges. Liezle, good morning to you.
Leanne, good morning, and good morning to our viewers as well. Yes, as you aptly put, for this Medical Monday Matters segment, we obviously just shining a spotlight on childhood cancers. And so today, research, interventions and treatment at large is what's coming to the fore. As we know, leukemia, lymphoma, nephroblastoma, as well as soft tissue sarcomas, these are just some of the more common types of childhood cancers in South Africa. And so advancing the study of childhood cancer, looking at the research available. The Oncology Research Centre has been launched at the Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital. And we're looking, as I mentioned, at the interventions and just some of the treatment options available. So Professor Gita Naidu is the head of the Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital Paediatric Oncology Clinic, is going to be joining us at this moment to tell us a little bit more about this research centre and, of course, how it is serving the continent at large. Prof. Gita, good morning, and thank you for your time on the SABC at this hour.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Prof, perhaps just, the realities on the ground in South African context, the stats coming through with regard to childhood cancer. Perhaps you could paint that picture for us as we begin this chat.
Okay. Well, as we know, South Africa is an upper middle income country. Yeah. But when we look at the rest of the continent and other low and middle income countries, 80% of the world's children with cancer reside in low and middle income countries, and only 20% are in high income countries, and they have an overall survival of 80%, while for us here in Africa, our figures stand more at 20%. In South Africa, we're in a slightly more fortunate position where our overall survival is more than 60%. So there are many, many reasons why we have lower overall survivals than what we are seeing in high-income countries like Europe and North America. Our patients have to travel long distances to the hospital, and when they get to the hospitals, there's a difficulty that there may not be adequate tests for diagnostics, therapeutics may be limited, but there's so much more to childhood cancer care. It's about supportive care, quality of life care, palliative care, long-term follow-up. And these and many of our centers in our hospitals don't really focus on childhood cancer. In most of the low and middle income countries, the focus is really on infectious diseases, on communicable diseases. And that may be true, that tuberculosis and HIV are major problems on the continent and in South Africa. But in South Africa, we have a really good immunization program for children. We have a really excellent antiretroviral rollout, which means that young children who may have died previously now survive. And these children then may get cancer. So, and it's been sort of estimated that by 2050, the world's incidence of cancer, including childhood cancer, would have doubled. So we as a country really have to be prepared for this.
Well, Prof, let me speak about some of the preparations and even interventions that have been undertaken thus far. I mentioned some of the more common childhood forms of cancer in my introduction. And if we're looking at warning signs, early detection in childhood, what does that look like? In the same breath, if we're looking at how cancer treatment for children differs from that of adults, talk us through the difference on that front.
Okay, well, our unit here at Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital drew up the early warning signs for childhood cancer, which is now being used throughout the country, and our Department of Health and CHOC are helping us to disseminate these warning signs. So the warning signs, as we know them, are the St. Silouan warning signs. S stands for seek medical help early. I is for any eye changes that the patient may experience, a squint, a bulging eye. L is for lumps and bumps, lymph nodes that are growing and not getting smaller, not necessarily painful. U stands for unexplained fever, loss of weight, loss of appetite. A stands for aching bones, and N for any change in neurological signs, like a child who could walk previously now doesn't walk, a child who could crawl doesn't crawl, a child who could speak has difficulties in speech. So those are the early warning signs of childhood cancer that we drew up here in our unit.
All right, and then just in terms of the treatment options available, the issue of access comes to the fore. Talk us through, how you're addressing some of those inequities and inequalities, and also the different treatments available for childhood cancers vis-a-vis adults.
Yeah, with adults it's really different, because a lot of adults is about early screening for cancer or for prevention. Whereas with childhood cancer, there aren't any screening tests that are available, and it's not in any way that we can really prevent childhood cancers. So I think the most important thing about childhood cancers is that primary healthcare workers, the family, primary school teachers, doctors in clinics must really be aware of these early warning signs for childhood cancer. Presently, I'm working with the Integrated Management of Childhood Illnesses, where we are trying to incorporate the early warning signs into the IMCI guidelines. The IMCI guidelines are actually the WHO guidelines, which get adapted for each region. So this is what my current project is, just to disseminate the warning signs of childhood cancer.
All right, so Prof, I'm going to leave the conversation there. Thank you for joining us at this hour and for shedding more light on, interventions that obviously are underway with regard to childhood cancers. Prof. Geeta Naidu is the head of Chris Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital Paediatric Oncology Clinic. She was joining us. Again, it's the launch of the Oncology Research Center here at the hospital. We're looking at, again, as I mentioned, the research methods that have been employed to date, furthering the advancements with relation to childhood cancer care treatment, and of course what the future looks like for South Africa and the continent at large. Leanne, I'm going to leave it there for now and hand it back to you in studio.